Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to today's live session. I'm very excited to have you here for the amazing conversation that we are going to have today. I know you must be noticing the background's a bit different today. And you know what I thought? I thought that a lot of times, so many of you are attending the session, you're being here, you're learning a lot. Because sometimes I just get this feeling, that some of you don't implement the stuff that I say. And I thought, what could be the reason? Well, you know what the reason was? I realized the background behind me is sometimes way too distracting. That rather than listening to me, half of you are spending your time trying to figure out what are the books that I have on my shelf. Well, I decided let's just get rid of the distraction and let's talk to you here in a way where it's only a plain background behind me, so you have nobody to focus on except me. Well, I'm joking. That's not the real reason. I'm just shifting some things around in my room, so I thought let's do it in this way today. But I hope this change is good for you as well. Right? For 81, 82 sessions, we've had the same exact background. So today, a change up of things is good because the message we have today is also about changing up things in our life. We are going to talk about going from being a failure to being a leader. I'm not talking about going from being a failure to a success, but about going from a failure to a leader and what separates the two. Because here's a very, very important thing. You can be a failure in any way of life that you want. Like you can have any measurement for it per se, but to be successful, there's one trait that you just cannot avoid, that you just cannot afford to miss out on, and that trait is leadership. If you have the ability to be a leader, you have the ability to succeed anywhere you want. If you have the ability to communicate with people in a way that makes them want to work with you rather than working out of fear or spite with you, then you've got the talent required to truly become successful. If you've got the skill of leadership, you naturally become a success anywhere you go. In fact, there's this very beautiful quote that I read from Marshall Goldsmith, and the quote goes like this. He said that the higher up you go in organizations, the more the problems become behavioral rather than skill based or technical. And he's so right about that because think about it, right? At the top rungs of life, nobody ever teaches us to think this way, by the way, but this is an important thinking skill that I want you to have as well. At the lower rungs of life, we can definitely say skill or talent make a huge difference. Why? Because there's a large pool of people over here. So many different people trying to do so many different things. So at this lower pool of people, what happens is talent or skill definitely shines brightest. Like, for example, if I'm speaking here and I'm taking this example in all humility, I'm not taking this from an arrogant place, just to show you what I mean when I say that it doesn't take its behavioral skills at the top. That's the point I'm trying to explain through this example. Okay, so let's say you put me now in a room of 1,000 other average school students and you ask me to give a speech. I'm very comfortable in that. I'll be able to do so very easily. In fact, I remember at one point, I think this was a college in Mumbai. I was at an event, I was attending there. I had no idea I was going to speak. And the person I was there with who were launching a program, they just randomly asked me to come up on the stage and say a few words. But the best part was, my mind was already starting to work. While I was sitting there and while I was listening to them introduce the program, I was in the front row along with the other guests. And as I was listening to the conversation that was going on there, my mind already started connecting the dots. I was thinking, well, wait a minute. If by chance, let's say, I'm asked to speak, what will I do? What examples will I pick up? How will I address the audience? And there were good 300 plus students in that room, by the way. And I was the youngest of them all because I think I was 17 at that time when this happened. So I was not even a college student yet, 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, this story is. And I still remember getting called up on the stage, and deep within I thanked myself so much that thank God you chose to prepare for those 2 minutes, for those 5 minutes when you were thinking through things. I went on the stage, I took the exact same metaphors. I used the example, I remember, of a water bottle and a pot and planting the water, sorry, watering the plant, not planting the water, watering the plant, and how that's similar to the program that's being introduced for your futures. And also, it was a very good talk that I had there. Few minutes, completely impromptu, and I was able to pull it off in a very good fashion. I was able to be very confident as I was speaking. At the same time, let's say you take that average group of students, okay, and you ask any one of them to just get up and start speaking in front of the audience, they are going to struggle a bit. They are going to have a problem. They are going to have a bit of a tough time having those conversations. Simple reason being, they don't possess the skills or the talent or the practice that I have done in the field of speaking to be able to have the mental neuroconnections that allow me to just figure things out and go up there and speak on the stage. They don't possess that skill yet. But now, put me in a room with 50 of the world's greatest leaders, and maybe I stand a chance, maybe I don't. Put me in the room with 50 of the world's greatest speakers, and I am going to feel very intimidated, but not because I don't have the skill. Here's something very important: the skill I have and the skill they have is, on its essence, the very basic skill. But the practice of the skill is on another level, the thinking of the skill is on another level, and their mindset and way of approaching their skill, their craft, their practice is so much different. And that's what I'm learning from, that's what I'm implementing in my life. Those skills and that practice that they put in is what makes them masters at their work. But between those 50 speakers now, okay, take me out of the equation. Of course, I'm going to feel a bit less skilled in front of the 50 greatest speakers of all time in the world. But among those people, has a very important question to think about. They all have the same skills, don't they? Between number one and number two, there's no difference of skill. But the difference there is of mindset, of behavior, of attitude, of the ability to be a leader. That's the difference. Because at that level, you're as skilled as you can get, you're as talented as you can be. You're competing with some of the most talented people in the world, and that is why you need to have better leadership skills to learn how to be a leader. And that's what takes you to number one instead of number 50. That's what allows you to make decisions and take some calls and have some ideas going in your head that may be a bit bold and risky to think about at first, but then you have the ability to push through with them and lead them on. That is what makes you number one versus number 50 in whatever you're doing. Number 50 follows safety, follows guidelines, follows the given principles all the time. But number one, they're willing to break the rules, they're willing to break the principles, they're willing to have the courage and the daring to lead something new that hasn't been proven yet. And that is what makes them number one. The most important quality for building that sense of leadership is assuming responsibility. And this is what separates all the failures from all the people who succeed. Understand this. If I want to become successful at something, everything that comes in and around me for that purpose is my responsibility. Repeat this with me, okay? I'm going to say this again. If I want to become successful at something, anything and everything that comes around me in my periphery is my responsibility. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, well, if something goes wrong, if I'm stuck in a traffic jam or websites are down, how's that my responsibility? Well, here is how. I'm not saying you caused the traffic jam that caused you to get late. I'm not saying that you caused the hacking that caused the servers to go down because of which you can't do anything. No. But if you're a leader, are you going to let those circumstances get in the way of what you want to do? First of all, no, you won't. Second of all, even if they do get in the way, you will assume responsibility for working with that reality rather than being frustrated with it. This is the important difference I really need you to understand. The people who are failures, they have one go to response for everything in life. And they say, I'm unlucky. Like, why does this always happen with me? Like, I know I'm trying my best, still I'm not able to. And they're frustrated and they're helpless, and they're like, you know, I just have no idea what I'll do in my life, and just sitting there with their head in their hands, wondering what went wrong, and just like hopeless and cursing at God if things get really, really bad. But the leaders, they have a different attitude, be it in their personal life or in their professional life. This is what separates them. They take responsibility. They don't say, I'm unlucky I got this circumstance. They say, yes, I'm unlucky I got this circumstance. Now, what do I do about it? Because I have a bigger goal to get to. I have a bigger purpose to get to. I have a vision to create and to chase and to achieve. That is what creates motivation. That is what creates drive. That is what makes the leaders successful, because they no longer settle for what their circumstances are giving them. They are ready to question the circumstances themselves and ask, how can I deal with this? How can I still get what I want? That persistence, that stubbornness is what makes you a leader. But for that, you first need to get good at accepting and managing responsibility for every single thing. Now, I'll give you an example that I just gave you, right? Let's take the example of that college in Mumbai that I was at as a speaker and as an attendant at that event. If you really think about it, was I given a brief that, you would be speaking something? None at all. Was I even given a hint that you would be called upon stage? None at all. What I was thinking was that the people who are organizing the event, the people I was partnering with, they are going to be doing the introductions and all of that. I'm on board as a partner. I'm going to say everything. I'm going to, interact with the students maybe afterwards for a bit. But no one ever told me you're the one who's going to be presenting. And yet, did my mind assume responsibility that if by chance I'm the one who has to present, what would I do? Now, that is what we call being a leader. That is what we call assuming responsibility, even when none has been sent your way. I could have very easily said, I'm sorry, I didn't know I was going to be called up on stage and I'm kind of stuck up for words and something like that. But then the organizers of the event who have called me there, the speakers, the other people presenting, it's a disgrace to them. And if I am being called there as a guest, I better be ready. If I'm being called there as someone who's partnering up and who's going to work with the students for an extended period of time, I cannot be the one who walks up on the stage and says, well, I wasn't briefed that I was going to be talking, so not quite sure, but hi, my name is Prabhsimrat Gill, this is who I am. No, none at all. My mind is already thinking, I want this project to be a success. I want this to turn out the way I expect it to turn out, the way they expect it to turn out, the way we all expect it to turn out, right? So, isn't it my responsibility as a leader in that project to be prepared for anything and everything? It is. And that's why on that stage, on that day, when I was sitting in that front row, I was not thinking, well, oh, what a nice speech and all of that. No, my mind was already planning. If I'm called up on stage, what will I say? What metaphors will I use? What examples will I use? What will I convey? And something that was unforeseen happened. All of a sudden, I get called up on stage. I have 5 seconds, okay, because I'm in the first row. The stage is what, like 5 steps away? 5 seconds to get up on stage and start with a bang, start with something that will capture the audience's attention. I do that effortlessly. Now, my speaking skills 2.5 years ago versus my speaking skills today, massive difference. But my ability to be a leader, that has also grown. But that was not absent that time. Because if it was absent, I would not have assumed responsibility for anything and everything in my periphery. See, am I on that event? Yes. Am I, do I have an even tiniest possibility that I could be called up on stage? Yes. And does that event have a big impact on the end outcome I want? Of course it does. So I'm going to be ready regardless of whether I get called or not. That's called being a leader. Are you still waiting around for permission, for approval, for someone to say, okay, it's normal for you to do this, it's good for you to do this? Or are you ready to take the lead of your life and stop being a failure? It isn't the easiest thing to do, but I can guarantee you, if you want to become successful, this may feel a bit uncomfortable, but if you can adopt this skill, if you can adopt this trait of self leadership, forget about leading others. First, lead yourself. First, learn to lead your life and your desires and your focus. And if you can do that, my friend, you are on the path to success. You are on the path to glory. You are on the path to being a great leader, because every single great leader in history, no matter who it is, has had this trait of composure, calmness, and preparation that makes everything they do look super effortless. Your actions, your words, your talks, your speaking, your communication, your ability to show up, your planning, your thinking, your motivation, your drive, all these things stem from your ability to be a leader And the ability to lead yourself is what separates the failures from the leaders and the successful people. The ability to assume responsibility and not be bothered by it is the ability that makes people shine the brightest, grow the most, and achieve the most. I hope this was helpful. I hope today you got a new insight. That is, it isn't just success that you have to chase, it's leadership instead. It's building the capability of being a leader and having those behavioral skills that no matter what happens, you are someone who can succeed and grow because your talent can only get you to a certain level. After that, it's the self leadership that gets you going because in those moments when you have no time to prepare, when you are asked to make a decision and when the stakes are high, it's not your talent that's going to come to the rescue, it's your leadership skills. Build them today, start working on them today, and there's no one in the world who can deny you the success you deserve. I give you the permission to make that happen. See, if I could address a crowd of college kids who were all elder than me at the age of 17 so confidently, even when I had no idea I'd be speaking. You can definitely build the leadership skills. It's easy. The first step to starting that is to assume responsibility and to ask yourself, if it's in my periphery, how can I deal with it so I still am aligned to the end outcome I want? Just this much awareness will get you going by leaps and bounds. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for making the time. And I'll see you once again tomorrow at the same time, that is 8:30 p.m. IST. Bye. See you soon.